This is a presentation of National Streaming Sports. Over 20 podcasters, 70 weekly shows, and a 3.4-star rating on Roku TV. Check out nessp.info for direct links and deals on the site BetUs for 125% off your first three deposits in NFL and college odds for upcoming games, Major League Baseball and NBA futures, and boxing wagers. Also, check out Fanatics, sportswear for your favorite teams, and also network merchandise, retro, Northeast Streaming Sports, National Streaming Sports, Big Football, and the Mac and Jack Sports Show t-shirts. Coffee mugs are coming soon. Check it out.
You're watching Mac and Jack on National Streaming Sports.
Yes, sir. Well, we made it to Wednesday, and this is the National Streaming Sports first show that starts every Wednesday. This is the Mac and Jack Sports Show. Good morning, everybody. Glad to have you with us today. And Jack, we got a lot of sports to talk about, as always. But I wanted to talk a little bit first about old places that you go to when you're older. Places that you visit or you hang out with when you're a kid. Me and Linda yesterday went to a old hangout. Before we even knew each other, we used to go there. It's called Bart's Hot Dogs. Now, Bart's Hot Dogs has been around for like 100 years. And it changed owners within the last, I think, 2-3 years twice. And, of course, it lost its pizzazz as it changes, right? You go there when you're young and you enjoy where you're going and you enjoy the food or whatever. And the last time we went there before that, the food was terrible. It was terrible. The new owners took it over. They didn't know what they were doing with this place. But new owners came in. And we went back there, we checked it out, and it's getting there. It's getting back to where it was. They have the foot-long hot dogs, the big hot dogs. The buns are toasted, chili, sauerkraut, the whole 9 yards. It's called the Bart's Buster dog. Belly Buster hot dog. And it was packed. It was jam-packed. Everybody went there to check it out and everything. And I give it a B-, Jack. I don't give it an A yet, but they're working on it. And it was good to go back to a place when I was a kid that kind of went back to where it kind of tasted like and what we thought it was. And it's getting there. So, and I know a lot of people out there, they have those places, right? When you're a kid, you go back to this place, and sometimes it's great, and sometimes it ain't the same. And I imagine as a young, you had those hangouts, either a club or a restaurant or something that you went to that, if you're in the area, you're going to go look it up. You're going to check it out. So we were a little excited about it, and we're glad we went, and we're glad it's finally getting back to where it once was.
Mac, that's great that we learned about when you were courting Linda, taking her out to impress her. You took her to hot dog places. That's great. But I like to put a spin on everything because yesterday I watched on replay on Netflix the hot dog eating contest, Joey Chestnut against Kobayashi. Okay? Joey Chestnut set a record for the most hot dogs in the 10-minute span. He ate something like 80 plus hot dogs. So
right.
Great way to start off the show, Mac. But I actually enjoyed your story. I actually enjoyed it.
Did you really? All right.
I love a good hot dog. I love a good hot dog.
Yes. And there's nothing like it in the world. And that's before.
They say buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks baseball. Buy me a hot dog at the ballpark because I think the hot dog is the staple of stadium foods. Whether any sports team, you go to an arena, stadium, I think the hot dog is the single most important food item or the single most desirable food item.
Yes, I agree with that 100%. Well, anyway, Jack, Florida State is an interesting story to me for a couple of reasons. First of all, Florida State was on favorite in their division to go and play in the playoffs, right? I mean, the 20% chance to get there. Not only lose the first game, but they go and play Boston College, and Boston College ran all over them. Their defense looked horrible. The quarterback that transferred into Florida, I mean, the hometown fans were booing them and chanting for the backup quarterback. The fans are leaving the stadium. I mean, you don't see that in college football too much. Normally they stay till the end. But they're really upset with this quarterback who made some really bad throws in the red zone. And, you know, this goes to show you that I don't care what the experts, so-called experts, say before the season starts. You got to see them on the field, Jack. And I'm telling you right now, you know, Florida just looked terrible. They gave up 300 yards in running defense alone.
Yeah, when they lost to Georgia Tech, it was thought of just one of those things. Georgia Tech may be better than we thought they were. They'll bounce back. But to lose to Boston College here, and now the analytics say they have like an 0.7% chance of making the playoffs, which is less than 1%, which is nil. But I don't go with these analytics. How many times have we seen analytics backfire? It could go from 0.7 to 20% to 30%. You know, that changes. They basically have to run the table, because in the conference that they're in, if Florida State runs the table, they can still make the playoffs. But you have to laugh at the term playoffs. 2 losses like this, 2 winnable games, upsets take place. But after what happened against Georgia Tech, you thought they'd absolutely straighten out against Boston College, and they didn't. And it could be a long season. I mean, they're going to be under a lot of pressure this third game coming up.
Sure. And what do you do if you're the coach now, Jack? You know, DJ, I'm going to try this. Golele transfer had come in with high expectations, right? He was supposed to be like a great quarterback for Florida State that would get their passing game going, and he's looked awful in the last 2 games. Do you turn to your second string quarterback already? Or, I mean, they got Memphis coming up. Memphis is no slouch. They have a possibility of losing to Memphis. What do you do? I mean, as the head coach?
Is it the quarterback or is it the coaching? I mean, if the coaching is contributing to the poor quarterback play, it's not going to make any difference. You're coming in with a backup. You have the same coaching there. I just don't know what the answer is. I mean, sometimes we tend to overrate certain teams, and sometimes the team just gets off to a slow start, and then they put it all together and they peak and they're good the rest of the season. But the fan base, dealing with the alumni down there, especially when you have high expectations, if you have something the way Coach Rule has and at Nebraska, they understand over there was a bit of a rebuild. They expect to get better. They expect to gain momentum. They expect to have a lot better team next year than they do this year, but they expect absolute improvement this year. You know, situations are different. Some programs, it's a win now, and the coach is under unbelievable pressure. And some programs, you know, are going to preach a little patience. They're going to have a little understanding. So it gives the coach, you know, a certain amount of slack. But in Florida, it's ugly because they started the season before the other big-time college programs did with a spotlight game against Georgia Tech. When you have a spotlight game, you can't get lost in the shuffle. You better perform well in that spotlight game, because all of college football is looking at your game very carefully.
Yeah, and again, you know, it was surprised. I guess they've had problems with Boston College in the past, but it was surprising that, you know, that Boston College just basically dominated them on the offensive line to their defensive line, and they ran all over them. Treshaun Ward, I mean, I know he ran for at least over 100 yards and scored a couple times, especially at the end there. And wow, I definitely I definitely wouldn't want to be in that head coach's position right now, especially if they lose to Memphis. Holy good God, the rain will become pouring down then. So in the NFL news, we got a big game tomorrow night, maybe bigger for Baltimore. We'll get into that. Thursday night, Baltimore is a 3-point underdog right now going into there. And Jack, I want to know, what are your thoughts on both sides of the ball? For Baltimore to win, what do they have to do? And for Kansas City to win after that, what do they have to do?
You know, it's early in the season, and when you're saying how big a game it is for both teams, Kansas City can lose a close game to Baltimore, and they're not even going to blink because their mindset is, look, we beat them last year. We lost our home opener. We lost our opening game last year at home to the Lions, and look what we did. We went on to win the Super Bowl. They could lose a close game. Kansas City's mindset is going to be fine. They're not in a strong division, so they don't have to really worry. They'll bounce back from it. If Baltimore should lose, especially decisively, imagine what it does to their mindset, because even though they were the best team in the NFL last year, they still lost in the playoffs to the Chiefs. So I hate to say this, and every player on the Ravens would deny it, and they would be furious to hear this, but there is a tiny bit of an inferiority complex when you've lost to a team, now a two-time defending Super Bowl champion, and they were a step behind the Chiefs. And the Chiefs could reaffirm, we're better than you guys. We own you guys. If they beat the Ravens, tomorrow night, and if they beat them decisively. But what do the Ravens really have to do to win the game? Get Lamar Jackson going. He struggled in the playoff game, struggled badly against the Chiefs. He has to show he can do to the Chiefs what he should have done in the playoff game. He could run, pick up yardage, make up big plays, keep the chains moving. And they also have to establish Derrick Henry, a running back, okay? First game with the Ravens, if he's going to be a major factor in the Raven offense this year, and that's going to result in Lamar Jackson running around less in the backfield, running less to pick up yardage. Derrick Henry's going to have to establish himself as the same bruising back he's been for his whole career and show he hasn't really lost a step. And also the Ravens are going to have to show they still have the elite defense. They've lost a couple of guys, picked up a great draft choice in the cornerback, Nate Clemens from Clemson. But that's basically it. It's a psychological thing with the Ravens. They really have to reestablish themselves after losing that playoff game to the Chiefs.
I agree, and I think you hit it on that. The running game is going to be important to keep Mahomes off the field and they got to get out front fast, Jack. They can't play from behind against the Chiefs. Then they're gonna blitz them. They're gonna go after Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is gonna have to beat him with his arm at the end. We know the Chiefs can come back and win. They did it last year to the Ravens, and then when the Ravens' turn, that's when Lamar Jackson threw the interceptions and got all frustrated. I think you're so right here that if Baltimore wins, they don't see the Chiefs again, let's say to the playoffs, as long as they both have the years we think they're going to have. So they can say, you're going to hear it from all the analysts, the Ravens have the key to beating the Chiefs. And, and everything's going to be, that's what you're going to hear, whether it's right or wrong, which it's wrong, but you're going to hear that. But if they lose, they're going to say, well, there go the Ravens again. The Ravens are not good enough to beat the Chiefs. And it doesn't really matter to the Chiefs. I agree. I think it matters a lot to the Ravens. And as you said, running game, they're going to have to do that, control the clock, take the lead early, and their defense is going to have to play out of their minds. And again, we talked about it on Sunday, Lamar Jackson didn't play at all during preseason. And I don't know if that's going to hurt him being rusty during the game or not, Jack. I know Mahomes played, trying to get used to his young receivers. They wanted him out there. Mahomes wanted to play. And I don't know what's going to happen there. I'd like the Chiefs to win tomorrow night. I really do.
Now, if we're going to gain a little education, even you and I and other people with the Raven Chief game. You said it best a moment ago. Lamar Jackson didn't play in the preseason. Patrick Mahomes did. The Chiefs were getting Patrick Mahomes ready for game one. The Ravens were trying to keep Lamar Jackson healthy for game one. They wanted to be sure he's on the field. They don't want to risk any possible injury during the preseason, so he didn't play. And if the Chiefs are so much more ready and they're executing so much better than the Ravens, it's a lesson going forward. You've got to play your starters more. You don't want them in high contact. I agree with that 100%. You don't want them banging too much, but they've got to be sharp. You know, back in the day, the early years of the Super Bowl, they would at least play the starting teams one quarter, all the exhibition games, because they wanted to keep them somewhat sharp. You know what it reminds me of, keeping a guy outside, not playing players in the exhibition season at all. It's like a fighter preparing for a championship fight in boxing and not sparring.
Yeah.
Imagine that. He says 6 weeks before the fight, I'm not sparring at all. I'm just training, getting in top shape. You've got to kind of sharpen up, and you get the feeling Andy Reid knows that. Really sharpen up. You know, the Colts have a heck of a coach in John Harbaugh. I mean, the Ravens have a heck of a coach in John Harbaugh. You know, Super Bowl winning coach. I got to give him his due. He knows what he's doing. But somehow you get the feeling Andy Reid is a master at that. But of course, he has Patrick Mahomes. But look, Lamar Jackson's a two-time MVP. You know, I mean, the Ravens have the weapons. The Chiefs are still trying to get it right with their different wide receiver groups. But the Chiefs have been ready to go for this game. You get the feeling they might be a little more ready to play this game than the Ravens are.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there. And it's great that this is our first game. I think this is a great first game to start off with. And you know, to see and again, it's the beginning, it's the first game. It really doesn't matter. I don't think it really even matters for Baltimore, but I think in their mind, as you said, Jack, I think this is a very important game for them to come out and win, not just play good, but win. I really do, and we'll see how that works out.
Well, you never know how. You know, the off season takes a lot out of a team. I mean, I hate to go back in history right after Super Bowl IV. The Chiefs played the Minnesota Vikings. They beat them 23-7. The Chiefs dominated the Vikings. They manhandled them. And then the following season, they played the first game of the season at Minnesota, rematch. And the Vikings won decisively. You know, you can never tell on these type of things. The offseason took place. It's a new game. You know, anything can happen. And I think the important thing for the Ravens, they got to win the game. But imagine the Ravens lose badly. That you don't know what that'll do to their mindset going forward the rest of the year.
And as you said, the division they're in is not the West. That's a tough division with the Bengals.
That is a tough division. Chiefs can get away with a loss much easier than the Ravens because they're in a much weaker division.
Yes. So I guess you're still staying. Are you staying with the Chiefs as your pick, Jack?
I'm going to stay with the Chiefs. I just feel they playing their regulars in the exhibition season as opposed to the Ravens. I got to feel they're going to be a little sharp, a little more ready, a little more tuned.
All right, me too. And that breakdown was brought to you by BetUs.com, our part sponsor with our show here. Just go to the QR code at the top right of the show. Download the mobile app by scanning it with your mobile phone and bet with us or bet against us, whatever you feel good about.
And
so
Friday morning, Mac, we're going to talk about the Ravens' 34-14 victory over the Chiefs, and we're going to analyze it.
NFL news, Jack. Tom Brady was interviewed by Stephen A. Smith. He had a lot of interesting things to say. First of all,
who's Stephen A. or Tom Brady?
Well, Tom Brady. Stephen A. is really never that interesting to me, but Tom Brady had some interesting things to say. He let everybody know that he has binders with every game plan from every game for every year he was in playing football. And the game plan was in there, his notes, any kind of things that went along with that game plan was in there. And he also said that today, if you start a rookie quarterback, of course, he went back to when he played quarterback. If you start a rookie quarterback, game one, they dumb down the offense because a rookie quarterback does not know all the things that go into that game plan all year and the defenses that he's going to be seeing. So what they do is they dumb down the game plan so that he can start that first game. And he also said what happens with that is that they're not knowledgeable enough to call audibles when they get up to the line to come out of a coverage that they have for that kind of play. And they don't call a timeout. If you watch the games, they don't call timeouts to discuss it with the coach. They call the play, and it's going to be unsuccessful. Tom Brady, it's going to be unsuccessful. So what the quarterback ends up doing is he ends up holding the ball too long, getting sacked, or throws a terrible throw into the coverage, gets intercepted, or the play doesn't work. And very interesting to me that Tom Brady, he did end up playing his first year, but it was after Drew Bledsoe played years. We know Patrick Mahomes didn't start. We know most of these quarterbacks that came up did not start. And the reason was because they had to learn the playbooks, and they didn't know how to call audibles against these different coverages. So what are your thoughts on that, Jack? I mean, could this be the reason why quarterbacks, as rookies, end up folding, not making it, is because there's so much pressure to play that first round draft pick, but they're not ready.
Yeah, I don't know a fraction about quarterbacking compared to Tom Brady. So the last thing I would do would take on Tom Brady, but it's easy to be submissive and say, yeah, I go along. If Tom Brady says it, that's the way it is. But you look at the quarterbacks that are drafted, the Big Six this year. Caleb Williams with the Bears, he's starting. Full-time quarterback, they said it right off the bat. Jaden Daniels with the Commanders, he's starting. Full-time quarterback, no dispute over there. Drake May is going to sit behind Jacoby Brissett to an extent. I don't think it's going to be all year. You get the feeling the plan is to get Drake May at some point. But let's say it's even the midway point or whatever. And then you look at, the other quarterbacks being taken. Bo Nix, he's a third one that's going to be starting. J.J. McDaniel, he was going to sit behind Sam Darnold in all probability with the Vikings. But the plan was to get him in at some point, maybe this year. He was going to play, but of the guys I mentioned, and Michael Penix, he was going to sit. So 3 of the 6 were going to be full-time starters for sure, right off the bat. And you mentioned Patrick Mahomes. The reason he sat the first year, in large part, the Chiefs had a good quarterback in Alex Smith, a very good quarterback who took them to the playoffs. I think it depends on who's ahead of you. I mean, a team, they'll sit you if they have the novelty to do it. But at some point, any rookie quarterback, he's got to take the field and he's got to learn by playing. There's never a substitute for playing. I mean, you could give me examples like Aaron Rodgers sat 3 years on the Packer bench. Jordan Love sat 3 years on the Packer bench. But Aaron Rodgers was behind Brett Favre. Jordan Love was behind Aaron Rodgers. You couldn't play your rookies in that situation behind Favre and Rodgers, respectively. But the point is, at what point is the quarterback going to learn? I mean, holding the clipboard isn't going to teach you how to, call audibles. It's not going to help you with your instincts. And some rookies come in and they can make their mark immediately if they're good enough.
I understand what you're saying, and I get that. I think that even when it comes, Dan Marino, I think, played behind Strock for a while. I think he was a starting quarterback. I'm almost positive he was a starting quarterback there. Joe Montana played behind Steve DeBerg. Eli Manning went in for Kurt Warner.
Kurt Warner after
like
9 games.
Ninth game, and they
Backfired on the Giants.
backfired, right? So I mean, I can see what Tom Brady's saying. Even if you go to Justin Fields, he started as a rookie, and CJ Stroud is the only one that I can really remember that started and had a year like he had. I mean, that is rare. People don't realize how rare that is, that to have that type of year and start. But he wasn't playing behind, as you said, an established quarterback, Jack. The quarterback there was, I forget his name. I know you remember. But
yeah, but okay, but look at the San Diego LA Chargers now.
Right.
Justin Herbert got thrown in virtually minutes before the first game of the regular season. The plan was for him to be backup all year to Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah.
That's what was made the plan by Coach Lynn at the time. And because it was an emergency, they threw Justin Herbert in, and he was outstanding. So it showed you it would have been a waste of time for him to hold a clipboard for the year in his case. CJ Stroud, you just mentioned, you're picking the Texans to win the Super Bowl this year.
Yes.
I'm picking them to go to the Super Bowl. But if CJ Stroud hadn't played last year and was just first starting to play this year, that probably wouldn't have been our selections. We would have looked at him, okay, highly drafted rookie, second overall in the draft. Now he's getting his opportunity to learn and play. But of course, you could come back at me and say, look at the disaster last year with Bryce Young with the Panthers.
Right.
That he could have benefited by, sitting a year behind an established quarterback. So you could point the examples both ways.
I think it's more so with them sitting for at least part of the year or at least halfway through the year. I think that's more relevant than them going out there. And you mentioned Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence too started right away, and they still haven't got it to where they thought they'd be yet. So you could blame that on coaching. You could blame that on injury. I mean, you could blame it on a lot of things. But again, I think Tom Brady has a great point there. And there are the rare cases like you mentioned where they've just gone in and played well, but that doesn't happen that often. And we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think Bo Nix will probably
they slide backwards, Mac.
Yes.
Sometimes Mac Jones had a good rookie year with the Patriots, and they continued to play him. Maybe it was the coaching, maybe not, but he slid backwards, and now he's a backup at Jacksonville.
Yeah, it's I guess the development of quarterbacks we've talked about before is not as good maybe as it used to be either. The coaching being a problem there, and who knows? Bo Nix played for 4 years. I guess it matters a lot, as you were saying, Jack, about how much they played before and what kind of team they're going on, right? Bo Nix is an older guy coming in, played 4 years in college, played a pro system, so maybe he has a better opportunity than maybe a Jaden Daniels does. We'll see.
Jaden Daniels is the starter at Washington, but Washington and Denver, they have no alternative but to start their highly drafted quarterback. Denver, are they going to start Jason Stidham? Are they going to start Zach Wilson? Come on. They can't start those guys. The bonus gets it by default. And Washington, are they going to start Marcus Mariota? Come on.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so at all.
I mean, Jacoby Brissett at least is an alternative with the Patriots. He's been around. He's competent,
Yeah. Position means a lot too. 100% right. So we can talk a little about Trent Williams. Trent Williams, offensive tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs, got his contract redone. He's up to like 30-something million a year. He brought up the rookie. Let me see if I can remember his name right now. The rookie wide receiver, Pearsall, as some kind of reason for him to get on field and to sign. I didn't see the whole clip. My fault, Jack, this morning. But he brought him up. Trent Williams got his money. And Trent Williams is probably if not the best offensive tackle in the league, at least in the top three. They run behind him a lot with
He's
McCaffrey.
considered the best.
Right. Well, yes. And McCaffrey runs behind him. Samuels runs behind him. They throw a lot of screens his way. I mean, he's a big part. He's one of the offensive linemen, I think, you could put him in a class of Nate Newton, of Jackie Slater.
Oh, easily. He's a Hall of Famer, 11-time Pro Bowler. Now, he's great.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, let's go another step. Let's compare the other guys to Trent Williams rather than compare Trent Williams to them. That's the best compliment I could give him.
Well, when he wins the Super Bowl like Nate Newton, then maybe I'll compare him to Nate Newton in that.
He has been to a couple of Super Bowls. They didn't quite get over the top.
Yeah.
Trent Williams is great.
Was Trent Williams there with Jimmy Garoppolo, Jack?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's 3. No, that's 2.
So but Trent, they needed Trent Williams bad, the Niners, because they have injuries to the offensive line, and he's crucial to protecting Brock Purdy. He's 36 years old. He's still at the top of his game. There's always a concern. You get to be that age, you start slowing down. But he's talking about playing till he's 41, like 5 more years, Trent Williams. And he's still good. You know, a big offensive lineman. You're more likely to be able to play into an older age than, let's say, a running back who has to have a lot of quick, cuts. And the problem was he had no guaranteed money left on his deal. I can understand the holdout even if you're under contract, if you don't have guaranteed money on your deal. I know a contract's a contract. He went from the highest paid offensive lineman to the 6th highest. And since he felt he was the very best, he wanted to get paid accordingly. I can understand that, but I still can't condone a holdout once you make a deal. But if you have no guaranteed money on your deal, even if you have a contract, I could understand you saying, look, I'll honor my contract, but I want the money guaranteed. Otherwise, I'm not reporting. That type of renegotiation, I can understand.
So
and the 49ers met him. They sweetened his contract, guaranteed a lot of money. And Trent Williams described it as a win-win for him and the 49ers, working it out. And he's back. Good for them.
Well, a couple of comments. Jackie Slater, I think, played 18 years. I mean, they could play forever if they're that good as an offensive lineman. So do you agree that Hassan Reddick has a right to stick out to get guaranteed money there, Jack?
If that's the only sticking point, guaranteed money, has no guaranteed money on his deal. He doesn't want to report to camp. I back him up. But Hassan Reddick wanted Hassan Reddick wanted to up his numbers. That was a main thing. The Jets were willing to guarantee some of that money. It wasn't like the Jets haven't been willing to work something out with Hassan Reddick. They've been willing to work something out. But supposedly he wants it all. He wants to get paid like the top, edge rusher in football, and the majority of money guaranteed. He's kind of asking for too much. If he just said, look, guys, I want money guaranteed. I can't report without guaranteed money. I think the Jets would have guaranteed maybe like half the remaining money on his contract or something like that. They would have worked along with him. But, I've said this all along. Some of these players, veteran players, they've been through so many training camps. They kind of don't mind missing the rigors of training camp, and they keep themselves in shape and to show up, perhaps for game one. But we're late in the game with Hassan Reddick. If all of a sudden he shows up, how much can they play him? And imagine he decides to end this holdout today, Mac, and the Jets play Monday. And the Jets play him even on a limited basis. And imagine he gets injured. You know what a fiasco that would be? You know how bad it would make the Jets look playing a guy who apparently wasn't ready?
Can you imagine if he makes a crucial mistake and the Jets lose because he missed coverage or he missed the tackle? Or, I mean, can you imagine that? That would.
Well, can you imagine he has a game-changing sack all will be forgiven, all will be forgotten. You know,
Yeah,
it could play out so many ways.
So then you go along with Jamar Chase not suiting up, not practicing because he wants to renegotiate his contract too, Jack.
No, well, Jamar Chase, there's a little bit of a difference. He has 2 years left on his contract. The other receivers like Justin Jefferson had 1 year left. And the Bengals, after the 2 years, they can franchise tag them for 2 additional years. And it's up to the team. The team can hold firm. I think the problem is the media, okay? You mentioned Stephen A. Smith before. They'll go on, they'll criticize the Bengals. How can you now redo his contract? Look at what the Miami Dolphins did. Jaden Waddle had 2 years left. They redid his. This team redid that. And you're disrespecting Jamar Chase. Stephen A. Smith went so far as to take up a bit of a cheap shot at Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow was Jamar Chase's teammate at LSU. That they were the quarterback wide receiver connection that continued on with the Bengals. So that apparently the two of them probably have a great relationship. He says Joe Burrow should go to bat for Jamar Chase. What's Joe Burrow supposed to say? Sign the guy. Just give him all the money. I mean, what is Joe Burrow supposed to do and say? Is he supposed to say something public just to make the Bengals look bad? Is he supposed to criticize the Bengals? You know, if I'm the Bengals, Mac, if you're the Bengals, guy has 2 years left on his deal. Why am I going to want to re-sign him with the big money? And at the end of 2 years, I can franchise tag him for 2 more years. And he's going to make a lot of money with that with the franchise tags too. It's not like he's going to be poor.
But now here's my quandrum with you. You say, well, we're going to redo Trent Williams' contract, even though he was in his 3rd year of a 6-year contract, right? So I mean, he had 3 more years on this contract, and you said, well, it's about guaranteed money, but you're going to criticize Jamar Chase for not wanting to redo his contract to be paid like the best receiver in the league. So to me, that's kind of contradictory, Jack. I mean, why wouldn't you take that stance with Trent Williams too? I mean, Jamar Chase makes Jamar Chase. Wait, let me finish. Jamar Chase makes that Bengal offense go. I mean, he's the number 1 receiver.
If I'm the Bengals, I do something with Jamar Chase with his deal. I work to get something done. I can't be that indifferent. He was drafted the same year as Penei Sewell, the offensive lineman of the Detroit Lions. A lot of people thought the Bengals maybe should have taken Sewell to protect Joe Burrow, but they made a bold move and they took Jamar Chase instead. And it's a win-win for the Bengals, win-win for the Lions. They each got, great player. And the Lions redid Sewell's contract. But is there a difference offensive line and wide receiver? These wide receivers now, contract-wise, are becoming prima donnas.
I agree.
They're getting ridiculous money. And are you going to tell me, Mac, that a wide receiver like, Jamar Chase is necessarily worth more money than a dynamic running back like a Christian McCaffrey, a Saquon Barkley? But according to the according to the pay scale and all, what's set, the mindset, and what they say guys can get paid legally, they are worth a lot more than wide receivers.
Jack, I mean, if you think about it, if the 49ers didn't have Christian McCaffrey, I'll even go as far as Deebo Samuels because they lost when he wasn't in. If they didn't have those 2 running backs that could catch out of the backfield, 49ers don't make the championship. They don't.
Well. No, I just think get back to Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is on the rookie deal. He's not getting paid much money. So even if he misses game checks, it's not an enormous amount of money that Jamar Chase is going to be losing. I think after his bonuses and everything, he's only getting about $900,000. He's only going to be losing about $50,000 a game. It's not going to be He's
I'm
not taking a terrible hit.
I'm not sure about if he's on a rookie contract, if they didn't redo it or not, Jack. I'm not sure about that. How many years has Joe Burrow's been in? He's got a $55 million contract, something like that. I'm not sure if he's still on his rookie contract.
Now, Joe Burrows is one of the highest paid quarterbacks. That's
Right.
not the issue.
So,
But you know what the Bengal problem is? The other teams. Because the other teams accommodated their players,
Yeah.
especially the Miami Dolphins with Jaden Waddle, who had the same 2 years left on his deal.
Right.
And how do they then decide we're not doing anything with our guy when another team did it with theirs? And you don't know what it does to a team in the locker room. They might be thinking, this team isn't doing Jamar Chase's deal. Are they going to do our deal at some point? You know, and the Bengals also, because of a bit of a contract disagreement, they moved on from their running back, Joe Mixon, who's with the Houston Texans now. So, but week one, the Bengals play the Patriots. So the Bengals might not be in a rush. They probably beat the Patriots. So there's no urgency. If they struggle on offense against the Patriots and Joe Burrow has a hard time connecting with his receivers, it makes Jamar Chase more valuable. Remember a lot of years ago when Emmitt Smith held out? He held out the first 2 games of the season, and the Cowboys struggled those 2 games. And then Jerry Jones, expedited things, and he signed Emmitt Smith because they saw they were really missing him.
Yes. It's going to be interesting. I mean, I'm not sure what the answer is, Jack. Supposedly there's so many great wide receivers in college right now. I mean, why are we signing these receivers that have been in the league for 4 years to big contracts? I don't know.
He's a great receiver, Jamar Chase, but you're thinking of this year. Bengals are Super Bowl contender this year. Whether they're strong Super Bowl contender or a mild Super Bowl contender, they're in the mix. And without Jamar Chase, they're not likely to get over the top.
I agree. I'm just saying what the draft analysts say every year. We got plenty of great wide receivers, and it seems like the receivers that have been in the league 3 or 4 years are all redoing their contracts.
It's worth the investment. If you can keep Jamar Chase on the contract for 4 more years, keep him with your team.
I don't know.
You don't have to redo anything. You don't have to.
Yeah.
But what's Jamar Chase's alternative, Mac? What's his alternative? Not to play. The only leverage he has, not to play. If you're willing to let him sit out, let him retire. He's not going to do that. Jamar Chase hasn't been a hold out. He's been a hold in. So that means he's been coming to the practices and everything. He just hasn't participated.
So what's to stop you say we signed Jamar Chase? We're the GMs. We sign him to a 4-year, making more money than most receivers, maybe more than Justin Jefferson. Who knows? We do that. 4 years, we give it to him. 2 years from now, he says, well, this Houston Texans receiver, what's to stop him from doing it again?
I agree. That's the problem you have. That's what went on with Trent Williams.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sympathetic on the guaranteed money part of it. I'm all for player renegotiating, saying, look, I don't have guaranteed money. I got to be guaranteed my money for the remaining time. I'm playing a guaranteed sum of the money. Yeah. To have no guaranteed money, I'm sympathetic towards the guy. But you sign a contract. If you're a Trent Williams, he became the 6th highest paid offensive lineman, but he signed the deal. And no. So I was against renegotiating the whole thing. You have a deal. If they guarantee you money, even though you're still the 6th and you feel you're the best, it's what it is.
Yeah.
But if Trent Williams all of a sudden became the 28th highest offensive lineman, the team has an obligation to think, he's completely outplayed his contract. Let's give him a nice extension that's going to move him in reality up to the top guys. In that case, you try to kind of work it out.
Yeah, it's crazy out there right now. Let's turn to boxing. Now, Naoya Inoue.
Inoue.
Inoue, thank you. He's up there in the pound for pound best boxer rankings, and he's a great fighter out of Japan, and he fights an Irish guy, Dehaney. And I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, Jack, the 7th round, Inoue catches him, or Dehaney. I really didn't see the.
Well, Inoue got Dehaney against the ropes, and he unleashed a savage body attack in combination.
Okay.
Lightning fast, thudding punches one after the other. It turned Dehaney around, and then he kind of was limping in a way, didn't know what to make of it, and the referee didn't know what to make of it in the beginning, but he saw Dehaney was kind of limping like he had a cramp or something, or his back was hurting, and the referee was going to allow him to continue initially like to straighten out, but then he saw Dehaney really wasn't straightening out, and it was just a savage attack, and it forced the referee to stop the fight.
Well, didn't Dehaney actually take a knee in the middle of the ring? If I saw it right, I mean, he didn't go down.
Yeah, it
was weird.
Yeah, but it was one of those delayed reaction type, things, and he was beaten into submission, in that type of situation, and in a way, it's outstanding. I think you now have to rate him maybe the best fighter pound for pound in boxing. It's either him or Alexander Usyk, and the only reason I put Usyk up there because he's a smaller guy beating bigger guys.
Right.
Not so much Usyk's performance in the ring. It's basically what he's accomplishing as a smaller guy. That's why I give him a lot of consideration for being number 1 pound for pound. In a way, I give him the consideration based on his performances. Terence Crawford, who was in the mix for number 1, if not number 1, before his last fight, performed so-so in his last fight. So to me, he kind of slipped out of the number 1 spot, Terence Crawford, even though he got the victory. It's not a question. You don't retain a pound for pound status based on just winning. It's not like you have a championship, you win, you're still the champion. You have to perform better than the other guys who are in the mix.
So after the fight, the promoter, Bob Arum, Top Rank, he's like, we're going to have another fight in December. We're going to have a celebration in Las Vegas. I mean, he wants to, the Japanese fighter hasn't been to the United States yet. So
he has been. He was in June. He came to New York to accept the Fighter of the Year award from the Boxing Writers Association of America. Mac, makes me think, why didn't I even hook up with him, meet him, have my photo taken with him that night?
I mean, he hasn't fought. He hasn't fought a fight in America yet, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Correct.
All right.
Correct.
So they talked to him, and he said, Bob Arum's all excited, and they talked to Inoue, and he's like, I don't know. He's like, he's happy he just won the fight. Of course, Bob Arum's talking about the future with this guy. Do you see him fighting Crawford? Do you see him moving up to fight?
No, not Crawford. Crawford's much bigger. That's
big, right?
No, that's very unlikely to ever happen. Inoue has got to fight in America to be a crossover star. You can't just keep fighting in Japan and be a star here. I mentioned him coming to New York to get the Fighter of the Year award from the Boxing Writers Association of America. That was in June. That was on a Thursday night. The next night he goes to Yankee Stadium. Yankees are playing the Dodgers. So, and Otani's playing, a Japanese player. Inoue is in the stands at the stadium. No one's recognizing him. Right. No one recognized him. And you kind of wonder, take a fighter like Roberto Duran, who'd been fighting in New York, who was a star. Some people would have recognized him. People would have recognized even a retired Sugar Ray Leonard, guys like that if they were walking in the crowd. But in a way, no one recognized the guy. I mean, imagine how that feels. You could walk up to concessions and get a hot dog, wait online. They won't know who the heck you are. And that's the only way that's going to change if he fights in the United States. gets a couple of really big fights, then he becomes a star here in the USA. And that can't happen with him continuing just to fight in Japan.
Agree. So the MLB playoff race, of course, we know is in full swing right now. I'll give you some scores, Jack. The Phillies come back to beat Toronto. Schwarber hits 3 home runs. I mean, the Phillies just have a way of rallying at the end of the game. They're just a very strong offensive team, and I think to beat the Phillies, you're going to have great pitching to beat the Phillies, because Phillies just have such great offense. They're similar to the Dodgers, I think. I think right now those are the 2 top teams in the National League right now.
Get the feeling this could be the Phillies' year.
Yeah, I agree. Baltimore continues sending the White Sox to the worst record in history as they win 9-0. I saw a play where people were running into each other, and it's kind of sad, Jack. I mean, can you imagine if one of the New York teams, I know the Mets were the first year of the franchise, had a bad year, but could you imagine one of them right now losing over 100 games? I mean, New York would be going absolutely bonkers.
Well, there's a little bit of a difference in the 2 teams. People love the losing Mets. It endeared them to people the way they'd lose. They'd be clownish, but they'd bring in these great cast of characters, with nicknames like Choo Choo Coleman. They'd bring back Casey Stengel to manage him, and he was endearing to the press. They bring back old icons like Gil Hodges, Duke Snider, a trip down memory lane for when they were with the Dodgers. There's nothing endearing about these White Sox. Nothing endearing at all. I mean, it's just like a pitiful situation going on over there in Chicago.
27 fans, Jack. I mean,
wow, that was more than 27 fans.
They had to send back some of the vendors there, the concession stand people. They sent them home. There wasn't a car in the parking lot at one of the games of going away. The people that were there came on buses and walked from a hotel. There was not one car in the parking lot in Chicago.
I experienced something like that about 5-6 years ago. The Mets had a really bad team, not as bad as the White Sox. They were out of contention with a few days left in the regular season, and they had a makeup game. They had a twilight doubleheader, 2 games at night. I had never went to a twilight doubleheader before, and it was on my bucket list. Catch 2 games at night. There were, and I kid you not, Mac, the stadium peaked at maybe 1,500 to 2,000 people because it was hardly in the news. You know this. No one was there. When I walked back to my car, I stuck it out till the second game was done. There was no one around the stadium. I was scared, Mac. I was scared walking to my car. I'm looking around. I could get mugged here and no one's going to know about it maybe until the next morning. I could be lying beaten up there. It was scary. And can you imagine? I mean, and especially a player playing in front of a stadium, like that. I guess you're professional. You're used to it. They did it during the pandemic, didn't they?
I mean, this could you imagine? How do you do a wave, Jack? It's not a wave. I mean, what does the organ player play? I mean, that's got to be just eerie, man. I mean, I don't know. That's
you can track all the foul balls, and you can run over and try to get them.
You're free to get those. The Mets, I'll tell you, Lindor's on fire right now. They win 7-2. Alonso hits another home run. I mean, listen, the Mets are doing everything, and the Braves are still winning. Good for them because the Mets are right there.
Mac, I got to say something about Lindor's contract. I was very critical of it. I'm still not supportive of it because after this year, it has 7 years left, and you're talking about a contract at $34 million a year. That's expensive. But if Lindor goes into makes the Hall of Fame, he's probably going to go in as a Met because he still has a little work to do to be a Hall of Famer. Still's got to put together a few more good seasons. But if he does a few more good seasons from Lindor, I feel gets him in the Hall of Fame. And if he goes in the Hall of Fame as a Met, I'm completely wrong in what I said. You know, if he goes in as a Met Hall of Fame. And right now, Lindor has come back from what he was with the Mets. His performance after starting out with the Mets and showing some promise, he kind of slipped again, and he wasn't nearly as good as he was with the Indians. And I thought he was a declining player. He's been proving me wrong. He's been outstanding. How many shortstops are going to wind up with about, 35 homers or so this year? That's what, 30 homers so far.
Yeah.
How many shortstops do that and play as good defensively as he is? He's been one of the best players in baseball. He's proved me wrong. Can he do it a few more years is the question. He has 7 years left on the deal. But right now, I got to admit, I can't say with any confidence, oh, the Mets made a mistake. What a joke to give him that many years, to sign him for 11 years. He's living up to the contract right now. He's really living up to it.
The Yanks had let me get to it here. The Yanks had him right where they wanted him, Jack. Up 4-3. Clay Holmes, you're proving correct, Jack. Clay Holmes gives up a grand slam after a walk. The pitch was on the corner. Maybe he should have been called out, but it didn't happen. He still gives up the grand slam, and the Yanks lose to Texas 7-4.
He's a good pitcher. Clay Holmes is a good pitcher. I didn't want him to be the Yankee closer. That was my beef. And so.
Yeah. I mean, it's just Yankees are up near the league lead in blown saves right now. I think they got the top team has 9 and they have 7. So they gotta change that if they're gonna.
What are they gonna do? Are they gonna make Mark Leiter their closer? I mean, they asked Aaron Boone, are you gonna keep Clay Holmes as he closes? He says, I don't want to talk after the game. It's too emotional, But what are the alternatives?
I don't know, Jack. I don't know. They're really that's what they wanted. They wanted Holmes as a closer, and they don't have another alternative. So they got to get.
They didn't address it. They didn't address it. And I'm not second guessing. I said so all year.
Yeah, you did.
I wasn't happy with this scenario, and now it's coming back to bite the Yankees.
Yes, real quick. St. Louis beats Milwaukee 7-4. Cleveland beats Kansas City 7-1. The Dodgers win again, 6-2 over the Angels. The Angel fans gave Ohtani a big.
Which is nice.
Yes,
which is nice that they didn't boo. The Angel fans showed class.
Yes, and Arizona beats San Francisco 8-7. So they're still hanging in there. As far as wild card, they're there. They're still hanging in there to maybe catch the Dodgers.
Yeah, no. They're in good shape for wild card. Arizona, San Diego, unless they slump a little bit. The Mets on a bit of a hot streak, 11 games over 500. But the Mets are probably going to cool off a little bit before the year's over, and they still got work to do. The Mets.
They definitely do. We'll see what happens, folks. We come to the end of the show. Thanks for joining us. Always fun with Jack here. And we'll be back live on Friday with Keith Angle. Stay tuned for coffee and sports after this show. And Roku all day is busy, is jam-packed. So stay with the Roku channel. You do that by downloading. Just if you got a Roku TV, just channel search National Streaming Sports. We're there. If you don't, download the free app and then channel search National Streaming Sports. Thanks for joining us today. I'll see you tonight on Professional Sports Show. Me and Jack will see you on Friday. Have a